A storm is brewing in America, a storm not of weather, but of ideas and values. Across the nation, a fierce debate is gathering strength, swirling through the halls of power, and echoing in communities large and small. It's a storm that threatens to reshape the very foundation of what it means to be a girl, a woman, and an athlete in the United States. At the heart of this conflict are clashing beliefs about identity, fairness, and opportunity. What does it truly mean to compete as a girl? What does it mean to be recognized as a woman in sports, in schools, and in society? These questions are no longer abstract. They are being asked in real time, with real consequences for young women and girls across the country. This conflict is unfolding on multiple fronts: in the chambers of Congress, in the solemnity of courtrooms, and on the vibrant, noisy playing fields of schools. Each arena brings its own set of voices, arguments, and stakes, but all are connected by a single thread: the future of America's daughters. At its core, this is a question of protection. What does it mean to truly safeguard our daughters? Is it about ensuring equal opportunities, or about preserving spaces that are just for them? For many families, these are not just policy debates. They are deeply personal concerns that touch the hopes and dreams of their children. Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri has stepped into the spotlight, recently accusing President Biden's Department of Education of twisting Title IX, a landmark law meant to protect girls, into a weapon that could ultimately harm them. Hawley's words have sparked heated discussions, drawing national attention to the issue and forcing lawmakers and citizens alike to reconsider what protection really means.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Congratulations to the nominees. Thank you for being here. Mr. Chief, if I could just start with you. I just want to clarify something that you said to Senator Baldwin a moment or two ago. She asked you about OCR investigations into alleged cases of discrimination on the basis of gender identity under Title IX. And you said, I think, I'm looking at our quick transcript of your remarks. I was sitting here. I just want to make sure I heard it correctly. You said that the OCR, Department of Ed OCR, would investigate alleged cases of gender identity discrimination. Why is that?
Thank you for the question, Senator, and for the opportunity to have a detailed discussion about it. So in 2017, OCR clarified that transgender students, that students who bring allegations forth based on sexual orientation and gender identity, were protected from harassment under Title IX. Sex stereotyping, a very narrow set of cases applied to protect students on the basis of sexual orientation and gender identity. That was back in 2017. Following the Bostock case, OCR had to step back and determine how Bostock applied to Title IX cases. There are a lot of reasons it didn't apply, and I can walk through those because they're significant. But what OCR finally determined is that because of the holding in Bostock, that Bostock could inform OCR's evaluation of complaints that allege discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation identity to determine if they involve biological sex, which is consistent with the Bostock opinion. So what we held is that Bostock could inform a limited sect of OCR cases pertaining to different treatment, pertaining to harassment, pertaining to bullying, but we drew a hard line at universally accepting Bostock to apply to all Title IX cases. What we said is that because the Supreme Court said that biological sex was not relevant in the termination of those employees in Bostock, that we would also look at the relevance of sex in our cases. And what we determined is that sex is relevant in certain instances. Sex is relevant with regard to restrooms. Sex is relevant with regard to locker rooms. And sex is relevant with regard to athletic teams. So it was a very nuanced approach.
But sex is not gender identity. And the Bostock decision is Title VII. The Supreme Court specifically reserved the question of whether or not it applied to Title IX. Justice Gorsuch is very clear on this. Now, the Biden administration didn't heed that warning at all, as you know.
Yes, sir.
They subsequently issued guidance that attempted to rewrite Title IX completely.
Yes.
That guidance has been enjoined nationally by courts because it is utterly inconsistent with the text of Title IX. Indeed, as you know, it completely upends it. It reads Title IX to say that women's sports cease to exist, that a biological man, if he wants to be in a woman's sport, go for it. In a woman's locker room, fine. It's so outrageous that I think almost every court that has considered it hasn't joined it.
I agree.
So, okay, I just want to be sure that you're not going to follow the Biden administration's interpretation of Title IX, surely.
No, sir. The Biden administration universally accepted Bostock and arguably exceeded, right? Went even further, I think.
Not arguably.
Than the Bostock opinion. That is not what we did under President Trump's first term, and that is not what we will do under President Trump's second term.
Good.
This is not just politics, it's a fight for the future of girls' sports, for their right to privacy and for the very concept of identity. The outcome will shape whether girls can compete on a level playing field, whether their spaces remain their own, and whether their achievements are recognized and celebrated. The debate reaches into every home with a daughter who dreams of running faster, jumping higher, or simply belonging. For parents, it's about more than trophies or scholarships. It's about the promise of safety, dignity, and respect for their children. The Biden administration says its goal is to expand civil rights and ensure no one is left behind. But many parents, athletes, and advocates are asking tough questions. Are we protecting everyone, or are we erasing the very people Title IX was created to defend? The answers are far from simple, and the consequences will be felt for generations. Words like sex, woman, and fairness, once clear and uncontested, are now at the center of a national debate. Their meanings are being challenged, redefined, and sometimes weaponized in the struggle over rights and recognition. The outcome of this battle will determine if girls' sports remain a protected category, if their privacy is prioritized, and if their voices are truly heard. It will decide whether the next generation of girls can compete and thrive without fear or compromise. As legal and political battles rage on, families across America are left in a state of uncertainty, wondering what the future holds for their daughters. Will their dreams be supported, or will they be forced to adapt to new rules and realities? The stakes could not be higher. The stories of those affected, athletes, parents, and advocates, remind us that behind every headline is a real person, a real family, and a future that hangs in the balance. This is more than a policy fight. It's a fight for the heart and soul of America's daughters.
Okay, I want to be crystal clear on this. That I think it's a very dangerous thing to start allowing this into Title IX, which is, it is a landmark statute. It is vitally important, and it has been under attack for 4 long, very long years, where we have seen women's sports, women's leadership opportunities, women's safety eliminated in many cases. And now, of course, one of the challenges you're going to face is you've got a host of colleges and universities who are openly defying, not just this administration, they're defying court orders. I hear a lot of talk from my friends over here on this side of the dais about the need to follow court orders. We've got a whole bunch of colleges and administrations that are defying court orders and saying, oh, we don't care. We're going to have biological men in women's sports no matter what. We're going to have biological men in women's locker rooms no matter what. Surely you're going to go after that, are you not, and protect the women on campus?
Yes, sir. The current leadership within OCR and Secretary McMahon, as you know, is prioritizing these cases, and that will not stop under my leadership if I'm fortunate enough to assume this role.
Good. And I want to be on the record to back to your regulations both in 2017 and 2020. I think you might want to rethink those. I mean, in light of subsequent jurisprudence and in light, frankly, of subsequent experience, I think you want to take a really hard look at how you're interpreting gender identity and the interface. We've had there's some water under the bridge now, and the interface with biological sex and just how that's being used to undermine the rights of it's never the rights of men, it's always the rights of women, 100% of the time.
The Biden administration has moved to fundamentally alter Title IX. In 2024, the Department of Education redefined sex to include gender identity. This means schools must treat biological males who identify as girls as female in every respect. The policy requires access to girls' sports teams, bathrooms, and locker rooms. Schools that refuse risk losing federal funding. Critics argue this dismantles the single-sex spaces Title IX was designed to protect. The law meant to give girls their own teams and locker rooms now forces them to share those spaces. Supporters call it civil rights progress. Opponents call it a radical departure from the law's intent. For schools, it creates legal and practical challenges. How do you balance inclusion with safety and privacy? These are not hypotheticals, they are the new reality for schools nationwide. The rule imposes a one-size-fits-all ideology on diverse communities. Senator Josh Hawley has emerged as one of the most vocal and persistent critics of the new Title IX rule, making his position clear in both Senate hearings and public statements. He has taken the lead in challenging what he sees as a fundamental shift in how fairness and safety are defined in American schools and sports. According to Hawley, the new rule undermines the very principles of fairness in sports, the safety of young women, and the foundational rule of law that governs the country. He believes that these changes threaten to undo decades of progress made in women's athletics and student protections. Hawley argues that allowing biological males to compete against females in sports is inherently unfair, citing the undeniable physical advantages that males typically possess. He points to examples from high school and collegiate competitions where female athletes have lost opportunities, scholarships, and even titles due to these new policies. Beyond the playing field, Hawley insists that forcing girls to share private spaces, such as locker rooms and bathrooms, with biological males, strips away their right to privacy and personal safety. He warns that these policies could make young women feel vulnerable or unsafe in spaces that were once reserved for them. Hawley's message resonates with many parents across the country. The court's order preserves critical protections for female-only spaces in schools, while the legal battles continue to play out in the courts. For now, the status quo remains, and the rights of girls and women are safeguarded. While the legal fight is far from over, the message from the courts and from communities across the country is unmistakable. The rights and opportunities of girls and women will not be erased or redefined without a determined and vigorous fight. The future of Title IX hangs in the balance, but for now, its original protection stands strong. For young women, this fight is personal. A high school track athlete in West Virginia trained for years, only to compete against a biological male and lose her chance at victory and scholarships. Female swimmers at a university were told to share their locker room with a biological male, leaving them feeling exposed and betrayed. Their discomfort and privacy concerns were dismissed in favor of inclusion. These incidents are becoming more common, not isolated. Christian schools faced a choice: violate their beliefs or lose federal funding. Their legal challenge was about religious freedom, not bigotry. These stories reveal the human cost of policy changes. Girls are losing opportunities, women are losing private spaces, and educators are losing freedoms. The real-world harm is clear beyond legal arguments. Behind every headline are real daughters and students whose lives are being upended. America stands at a crossroads. One path, championed by the Biden administration, treats biological sex as irrelevant, risking the erasure of women's hard-won rights. The other path returns to Title IX's original promise, protecting the unique value and opportunities of girls and women. Female-only spaces and fair competition are not discrimination, they are essential for equality. The nationwide injunction gives us a moment to reflect on what we value. Do we believe women's rights are disposable? Or do we defend their right to compete and feel safe? This is not a partisan issue. It's about protecting children and preserving fairness. The next generation of women deserves the same or greater opportunities than those before. We must demand leaders defend Title IX's original intent and put daughters' protection first. The future of women's rights in sports hangs in the balance. We must choose wisely.